Guardian's Project Properties is a powerful engine for perfecting your project model's properties to be in alignment with your firm's graphical and Revit standards. Project Properties will identify, process, and clean the furthest reaches of your project models and Revit families. In this video, we will demonstrate the two distinct ways that Guardian's Project Properties function. Through Guardian's All Project Properties dialog, Guardian administrators can map and clean the Revit properties within the active Revit model or individual Revit family to align with those of the firm. When content is loaded into the active model, Guardian's incoming properties will launch to identify, process, and clean the incoming content. Depending on how Guardian is configured, for Revit end users, Guardian will automatically process the Revit properties based on known mappings. For Guardian administrators, Guardian will prompt the Project Properties dialog for the administrator to clean the incoming content. Later in this video, we will demonstrate Guardian's Mapping Configurations dialog. Mapping configurations is how Guardian memorizes the mapping or conversion of non-standard Revit properties to a standard Revit property that are made during both options for processing project properties. It's these mapping configurations that establishes the automations for Guardian to clean incoming content to align with the firm's or project's graphical and Revit standards. To better understand which Revit properties that can be mapped to your firm's standards, we've developed legends to help visualize the typical graphical and Revit standards used by firms. For the graphical styles legend, all the line styles, text styles, and dimension styles are graphically represented. Not shown are the line patterns as they are loaded into system families such as line styles and phase settings and cannot be graphically represented on their own within Revit. For the filled regions legend, all the filled regions are graphically represented here. As with line patterns, fill patterns are not shown as they are loaded into filled regions and cannot be graphically represented on their own. For the annotation tags and symbols legend, callouts, view titles, grids, levels, spot elevations, and coordinates, view references, and basic annotation families are graphically represented. Not included in legends are loadable families such as detail items and system families, object styles, shared parameters, view filters, view templates, and load classifications. There are multiple benefits of having these standards graphically represented within Revit Legends within your firm's Revit templates or starter projects. This ensures all of the firm's graphical and Revit standards are loaded into each project. This provides the means to communicate to end users right within Revit of the firm's graphical and Revit standards. Hosting these graphical and Revit standards within a legend prevents these Revit properties from being accidentally purged from the model. Most importantly, within project properties, Guardian assumes the active project model is the source of truth. It is necessary to have all known Revit properties loaded into the active project model so the non-standards Revit properties can be mapped to the standard Revit properties. Please check out the video on Guardian Sync, where these Revit properties can be hosted in the Guardian Cloud for easy download of these properties if they get accidentally deleted or purged from the active project model. Guardian's project properties can map and clean the Revit properties of the active project model. All project properties is selected under the project drop-down menu. Along the top are individual tabs based on the specific Revit properties. Before getting started with mapping and cleaning, it's always best practice to confirm the correct mapping configuration is assigned to the active project model in the upper left corner. Another item to note when first entering the project properties dialog is the number next to Review Changes in the lower right corner. This is the number of known mappings Guardian has automatically recognized within the model based on the previous mappings assigned in the mapping configuration. We'll get started by clicking on the System Family Types tab. Under System Family Types are the system family types loaded into the active project. Expanding annotation symbols and then text, all the text types within the model are listed. To assist in identifying which Revit properties are being used, how they are being used, and which ones align with the firm's standards, Project Properties provides the means to identify duplicates, properties in alignment with Guardian Sync, and usage, which will be demonstrated. By selecting the Scan Types for the Duplicates button, Guardian will scan the properties of each type to see where these properties are identical with other properties in the Revit configuration. Once the scan is completed, a number will be displayed showing how many times the specific text type is duplicated. By hovering the cursor over the number, Guardian will highlight in yellow which of the 4 types are identical. By clicking on the number, a dialog will appear showing the 4 identical text types. Multi-selecting the 3 non-standard text types and then selecting the Edit Mapping button, the Map Properties dialog will appear. The Map Properties dialog provides the means to map these three non-standard text types to the standard text type. In this case, Guardian Note 3/32 of an inch. Once the mapping is made, Guardian will store these mappings into the mapping configuration. Whenever Guardian recognizes these three text types for any model in the future with that mapping configuration applied, Guardian will automatically convert those non-standard text types to the Guardian Note 3/32 inch text type. The same is done for the QA Instructions Note 1/8 inch bold text types. It is very common for projects to have many exact duplicates of not only text types, but all system family types due to inconsistent naming practices. The Guardian Sync column shows all the text types that are hosted in the Guardian Cloud. By identifying the text types without a green in cloud label, quickly distinguishes which text types are not a firm standard. By clicking on one of these text types and then selecting the Edit Mapping button, the Map Properties dialog will appear. In this example, all the available text types in the model are listed. Along the right is a green link icon labeling which of the text types are hosted in the Guardian Cloud. The correct text type is selected to create a mapping. When a property is labeled with a yellow in cloud with a broken link icon, indicates the text type in the active project model is out of alignment with the one in the Guardian Cloud. By clicking on the icon, the relationship between the two versions can be resolved. In this case, the text type in the model is updated with the version in the cloud. This process of identifying non-standard family types and mapping those to standard family types is continued. Now is a good time to note, in addition to the many modeling system family types, field regions, view types, and viewports are system family types that commonly deviate from a firm's standards over the life of the project and can be easily mapped and automatically aligned within project properties. On the Line Patterns tab, the same mapping process is started. With some of the Revit properties, Images provides a quick visual comparison between the types. To demonstrate the usage column, the demolished line pattern is chosen, and the scan selection for the usage button is selected. Under the Property Usage pane, Guardian lists where the property is used within the active project model, or, in some cases, which family loaded in the model in which the property is used. Here, the demolished line pattern is used in both the demolished line style and the project phase information settings. As indicated with the yellow caution icon, there are some locations where Revit properties exist within the model that Guardian may not be able to map. Revit Groups is an area that Guardian is unable to map and assign properties applied to elements within the group due to API limitations. Because Guardian identifies where these elements reside, it makes quick work to manually edit the properties assigned. By scanning for usage in the Area Boundary Override line pattern, Guardian shows it is not being used in the active project model. By deselecting the checkbox, we'll remove the property from the model. Guardian will completely purge the property from the model in the same manner as the Purge Unused command. Once the button is deselected, Guardian will prompt to ask if this action can be remembered. The first option, Remember, updates rules. Guardian will apply the choice to the mapping configuration, and whenever the property is recognized by Guardian, it will be automatically removed from the model. The second option, Don't Remember, Do this time only, is what is called a one-time mapping, and Guardian will remove it from the model, but not remember this action within the mapping configuration. This is indicated with the mapping arrow and a superscript 1. The remaining line patterns are cleaned, along with the other Revit properties. There are a few items to note about how Guardian maps and process-specific Revit properties, and along with the visuals on the screen, will demonstrate a few ways in which these properties can get out of alignment with the firm standards. Object styles. Guardian is very effective at mapping object styles, as object styles will be updated within any family and nested styles when selected to be mapped. This helps ensure the settings within the project's view templates produce an anticipated graphic output. View templates. Over the course of a project, View templates can multiply by users duplicating them or bringing new ones into the project via insert views or transfer project standards. Please note, the view templates must be of the correct view type in order to be merged. Guardian is very effective at mapping these view templates. View filters can be merged as well. With the ability to host view filters in the cloud, Guardian can effectively compare the settings between these in the model versus those in the cloud. This makes quick work to resolve an issue when a view filter is not working as prescribed. Materials. Materials can be mapped just like any other Revit properties. As seen, many of the materials and their assigned mappings are showed as grayed out. These are known as mappings stored in the mapping configuration, for which Guardian will automatically make those changes. Earlier in the video, the 173 review changes all related to the renaming of the materials. For this demonstration, the glass material is mapped to old standard default, glass, clear glazing material. Guardian is also an effective renaming tool to update a firm's outdated naming standards with a new standard. As shown, the old standard materials are renamed to the Guardian naming convention. In this situation, Guardian memorizes the chain of mappings and asks to confirm those changes. The remaining materials are renamed to the new naming convention. Family and types. Guardian can map loadable families and their types. When mapping loadable families, it's always important to remember to not only map the family, but also each of the family types associated with the family. Especially with loadable annotation families and detail items, they find a way of sneaking into the project models. Under the gear icon in the upper right corner provides many options for filtering and more advanced features for using project properties. Show Only Mapped Properties will filter the project property tabs as described and provide a quick way to review all the mappings prior to executing the mappings. Show Only Unused Properties and Show Only Duplicate Properties will also filter accordingly, but require each tab to be scanned prior to utilizing the filter. Reset All Mappings, Session Only, works like a one-time mapping for the entire project. Remove All Mapping Rules, Session Only. This setting temporarily suspends all mapping rules applied, creating a clean slate. This allows you to selectively create new mappings and process them immediately, or systematically reinstate existing rules a few at a time. After working with your selected mappings, use the Remove Mapping button to reinstate any temporarily removed rules from the previous action. Under the History pane, administrators can view when properties have been added, modified, or deleted through the course of the project. By clicking on any one of the transactions provides detailed information of all property changes executed with that transaction. Review changes. Once all the mappings have been completed, select Review Changes to proceed with the cleaning of the Revit model or family. At this point, Guardian will prepare the model for executing the changes associated with each mapping. Once Guardian has completed its review of the mappings, the Review Changes dialog will give administrators the ability to review the mappings prior to processing the changes in a single list rather than across multiple tabs. In addition to seeing the usages for all properties, administrators can undo specific mappings and change mappings to or from a one-time mapping as needed. This also provides an opportunity to see all loadable families that are going to be affected by these changes. In the lower right corner, there is the option to export files to export the loadable families after the changes have been processed. Select the Process button to process the changes, and the Revit model or family will be cleaned accordingly. Let's demonstrate Guardian's incoming properties and how it can identify, process, and clean incoming content to align with the project's graphical and Revit standards. There are several ways in which content can be loaded into a project model, such as insert family, transfer project standards, insert views from another project, or even simply copying and pasting. For Guardian administrators, they will always see the incoming properties dialog when loading content. However, for end users, their interaction with the incoming properties is dependent on the transaction settings established within the project configuration set for the active project model. Please see the transactions video for more information on how Guardian can be customized to process different types of content being loaded into the project model. For most content, the transaction is set to silent mode. This bypasses the incoming properties dialog for end users while Guardian cleans the incoming content in the background. Any properties Guardian does not recognize from previous mappings, the project administrator can access the Project Properties menu to retroactively clean these properties that were not initially cleaned. To demonstrate, a family is selected to be loaded into the project model. When new content is being loaded into the project, Guardian administrators are presented with these two options. The first option is to remove new properties that are not used. Think of this as a powerful purge. And when selecting this option, Guardian will automatically purge all unused property and process all known mappings. You will be surprised how many unused properties are loaded within a family, especially from external sources. The second option is let me choose which properties to keep. This is the preferred option for Guardian administrators looking to perform a thorough cleaning of the incoming content. The incoming properties dialog looks very similar to the project properties dialog and was demonstrated earlier in the video. In the left pane, the incoming family and all the nested families are listed. By clicking on any one of the individual families, the dialog will be filtered to the properties that are loaded into that family. Clearing the filter, the properties pane shows all individual families and incoming Revit properties. Under the families and types, all the families and their family types are listed and grouped by family category. From here, they can be renamed, purged, or mapped to families of the same category that already existed in the project. System family types are listed and are usually more common when used with insert views from another project or transfer project standards. Guardian can identify the incoming shared parameter. Tooltips are available to examine information about the shared parameter. This is useful for comparing the GUID when there are multiple shared parameters with identical names. Shared parameters can be mapped to those in the current project model, to other shared parameters loaded in the family, or ones in which mapping rules have already been assigned. Moving on to materials. This provides an opportunity to update the old standards that exist in the incoming family with the new standard material. By default, if Guardian recognizes that the usage is 0 for Revit properties, it'll automatically purge those out. For loadable families, Guardian will not automatically purge those out. When initially getting started with Guardian, it is best practice to use each of the cleanings as an opportunity to teach Guardian the proper mappings for an old or non-standard to the new standard, as demonstrated with the Don't Use This Glass material. Guardian will memorize these mappings for all future projects and automatically convert these properties. Moving down to the line patterns, when mapping the Revit properties hosted in the Guardian Cloud, a green link icon will appear next to each of those properties. The remaining fill patterns, object styles, and line styles are mapped. Before processing the mappings, the Export button can be selected to save the cleaned families. Guardian will execute cleaning the incoming families when the Process button is selected. The speed in which Guardian will clean the incoming families or content is dependent on the size, the number of properties, and the quantity of families affected. As shown under the Project Line Patterns dialog, the incoming lines pattern have been mapped and purged from the project model. At the heart of the project properties is mapping configurations. As stated earlier in the video, mapping configurations is how Guardian memorizes the mappings made during the processing of project properties. It's these mapping configurations that establish the automations for Guardian to clean incoming content to align with the firm's or project's graphical and Revit standards. The Mapping Configurations dialog can be accessed under Settings and Mapping Configurations. Here, all of the previously processed mappings are now stored within the mapping configuration as shown. This provides Guardian administrators the opportunity to modify any existing mapping. For instance, if a property has been improperly named or mapped, it can be corrected. There are a few best practices associated with mapping configurations. Most firms will establish a comprehensive master mapping configuration that is used only by company administrators or project administrators for the purpose of maintaining the firm's Revit templates and Revit family libraries. A copy of the master mapping configuration is created on a regular basis, which is assigned to projects as part of automatic file registration rules. This ensures there is no accidental overriding of firm standards to non-firm standards. Multidiscipline firms will have mapping configurations for specific disciplines. It is recommended that the discipline-specific mapping configurations is created via a copy of the master mapping configuration, as there is typically a common set of baseline standards between all disciplines. For firms with repeat clients, they have created client-specific mapping configurations. These firms have taught Guardian how to map from their own standards to a client standard. Thus, this permits teams to develop the model utilizing the firm's standards, but converting them to the client standards just before deliverables. Guardian provides the ability to edit, create new, rename, delete, duplicate, and merge mapping configurations. By identifying a single mapping configuration with the star as the default will automatically assign that mapping configuration if none is assigned when the project is registered with Guardian. As demonstrated, Guardian's Project Properties is a powerful engine for perfecting your project model's properties to be in alignment with your firm's graphical and Revit standards.